All right, well, I'm going to drag this kicking and screaming to the next segment. Speaking of bad writing, Neon White is a game that is gameplay-wise about as Mark Robinson TM a game you can get, and then every other aspect of it is not.
There's writing in this game. Who cares about that?
You should skip it. You really should. You are losing absolutely nothing if you don't.
I skip everything.
It's so bad. I haven't come across a game that's like this bad in terms of like writing and presentation. Well, actually, presentation is fine if you're like talking about what it looks like. But in terms of like writing, voice direction, all that stuff, it's just unbearable. It's unbearable. And then the gameplay is amazing.
Yeah. It's interesting as well, like, because I've become story guy Robinson this year. I've played a bunch of games that are very like slow paced with the narrative. You're really kind of paying attention, and so like as far as I believe in myself, I'm now in tune that, you know, if this is going to present me a story, and like it's got the fucking great Steve Blum, Spike Spiegel himself as the main voice actor, like, you know, everything is here for me to be like well into this, and within about 2 minutes I went, nah, fuck this. This is not doing it for me at all. I fuck with these characters, and
it's just stuff to skip between the next level.
It really is.
It really is. And the level and the gameplay of this are so much fun that you really don't give a shit anyway, because you're going to spend time on it, because it has that sort of Trials-esque thing of immense replayability, where you just want to try something over and over and over again until you get your gold time and stuff, and you the plan, all of this shit that you can get in there, and it feels really fun. And there's not many games like this where the replayability factor just carries on for me and makes me want to try it over and over again. Like this game. Who wants
to take a stab at explaining like what this game actually is?
Mirror's Edge.
I did see a tweet the other day that said Mirror's Edge Lord, which
it's good. It's Mirror's Edge with more weapons, basically.
Is Mirror's Edge not Mirror's Edge written by Trey Stone and Matt Parker be Mirror's Edge Lord, wouldn't it?
I guess, yeah, it would be. Yeah, it's that, but there's also this kind of card mechanic that's bolted onto it as well that like works surprisingly well.
But the cards are just power-ups though. Like if they were sort of floating crystals, it would be no different than if they were cards, right? They could be anything. They could be
just cards are the video game thing, so they're cards. When they're disposable one-use items or multi-use items depending how you use them.
Well, that's the thing. There's a kind of the dual functionality of it, and the fact that you can swap between them. Though like the levels are mostly lined out in a way that you never actually have to swap the cards. It's only when you're trying to get the gifts in each level that sometimes you might have to, like, because you can only hold 2 separate types of cards, and sometimes levels have like 3 or 4, and sometimes you have to kind of like juggle between, okay, what actual cards am I meant to have to get to that present that's like fucking yay up high on a tower. But yeah, like it's what I really like about this game, because you've got your sort of standard levels in the campaign that you're doing that are these kind of like speed-based runs where you're trying to figure out like the quickest path to get up to like the end goal, and you have to defeat all of the enemies on the way. And you have these cards that have different abilities. Some make you kind of project forward incredibly fast, like the blink in Dishonored. Some of them make you do like a kind of downward stomp. And then the levels are arranged around this where, you know, sometimes you're just kind of going in a straight line as fast as you can, taking everything out. When you get the stomp ability, there's a lot more like verticality where you're trying to kind of go down as quickly as possible. But then you have all of the bonus areas from collecting the gifts, which then is where the horrendous amount of exposition comes into play. And those levels are more sort of like Kaizo Mario, Super Meat Boy in terms of the difficulty kind of spikes up a bit. Not as difficult as them, but certainly you're playing those levels a few more times to kind of figure out, like, you know, instead of where in the main campaign where you've got like a lot of solid ground to work with, you're doing in these bonus areas, you're doing a lot of like mid-air juggling between cards, and they, you know, they kind of really stimulate you in a way. I think this game is pretty dope just in terms of the core mechanics, and I think as well like the soundtrack is fucking like, I don't know, it's been a while since we've had a sort of drum and bass style soundtrack to a video game, and I think this complements it really well.
That gave it a real 90s feel to me. Like this whole thing feels like a very 90s video game. I don't know if you guys agree with
No, I definitely see it. I do.
Yeah.
It's just wild that the guy that made Donut County made this. It's such a...
It's just the natural next step. You fall down that hole, and this is the world that's 180.
And I don't know, I haven't looked to see who else is in the writing credits for this, but it just, not only does it feel like a different game, it feels like a different game in terms of the writing, because I think Donut County is a very funny game, and I think it has a real sharp wit to it. And like, this just doesn't have any of that. It has none of the, not subtlety, but none of the nuance that Donut County has, and it has none of the wit. It just feels like a bad fucking like anime comic strip from like the mid 2000s that you'd see online.
You can see like this has a very, very obvious set of inspirations. It's anime pilled to a thoroughly flawed degree.
Is it a parody though, or is it done straight faced? This is what I couldn't figure out.
I don't enjoy. Even if you're like, this is actually meant to satirize those, I'm also like, no, it's just annoying.
Yeah, that was. I mean, thanks, Carrot. Like, that was literally my next point. Was going to be like, what are these two? Do you think it is? But either way,
doesn't matter.
And the fact that you can't tell is another like slap against it, isn't it?
Yeah, pretty much. But it's. Does any of it matter though?
No, it's all window dressing. You can just like, I would recommend you skip it unless you're like super into anime where you might enjoy it, but like just skip it. Just go right through it, play the extremely fun, super enjoyable levels that feel so great to play through. Like I watched Mark playing this on stream, and I was like, I find it interesting that you're going for the gifts, because I just completely ignored them, because the thing I really like about this game is like the going fast of it all, and like going for the gifts is more like a slow it down, do a puzzle kind of thing, use the mechanics in a different kind of way, whereas I'm like, no, go fast, do level good. It feels so good to just like your successful playthrough of these levels, whether it's the gold or the platinum rank you get, that successful playthrough, you just breeze through, kill all the enemies, and it looks perfect. Fair enough, it takes like 10 attempts to do it, but when you get that like perfect run, it's like, oh, this game just feels incredible.
Yeah, I like the added element of the presence in a way that it gets you to look at the level from a different perspective, and where in like when you're just doing like the straight runs that you're more or less following the path until you get the gold medal, and then it gives you like a hint on like different ways, because that's the other thing I like about the way the levels are designed, is that there isn't just one way to do the levels. There is the obvious way, but there are like the quicker ways if you're trying to get down to those ace medal times.
Yeah, I feel like there is an intended way to do the level, and then just you can use the mechanics to sequence break it all you want.
Yeah,
this game is built to be speedrun.
Oh,
like
absolutely.
from moment one, you just immediately feel like it. It kind of felt like when I played Astros, like for the first time, I was like, oh, this is just, people are just going to speedrun the hell out of this. Like, I don't know, I haven't seen any of, is it Games Done Quick's going on at the moment?
There's a Pokemon Brilliant Diamond Shining Pearl run on right now that I may or may not be watching.
Right, yeah, exactly. So that's happening right now. Is anyone running this game already?
I feel like maybe it's too
new. Usually it takes them 3 to 6 months to get a game into this kind of thing, yeah.
Yeah, but the next like Games Done Quick, there's no way this isn't like one of the main features, because as you said, it's a game built for speedrunning, and it's a game to be built for sequence breaking and just finding really weird ways to use cards in ways that probably weren't intended.
Perfect Twitch game as well. Like, people go on about how attention spans are short these days. Well, if you're watching someone do a level and it's usually 20 or 30 seconds or whatever to take out all of the enemies and get to the goal, then holy shit, it's dopamine to just zip it into your brain level after level and watch someone else play.
I find two things. The purity card, which is the one that gives you like the exploding ball that ricochets you around, whatever. I feel like the physics on that is really fucking weird, because like you saw on the stream the other night, Garrett, like I was below the explosion, but it still projected me upwards. So I don't know if it's just, if you're in the blast radius, it's just going to make you go up. So that kind of seemed weird. And the collision, like for surfaces that you're trying to land on, it is not particularly lenient, and there are so many times where I feel like I have to kind of hold myself back a bit as I'm kind of reaching towards a ledge, or because I feel like I'm always going to overshoot the target, because it just doesn't give you that extra bit of leniency that, like with first person games that are more platforming based, you do run into this issue. But I feel like I don't know. There's just that extra little bit of collision that it's not accounting for that I feel like it should be, and I've kind of just gone careening over the side on a number of occasions, which seems a bit harsh.
Yeah, I feel like 3D games have worked this out. You have your shadow, so you know exactly where you're going to land at all times, and you know where you are at all times. Whereas first-person games doesn't have that. So when you're like floating through the air and you're trying to like boop on the balloon thing, you don't, unless you're literally looking down, which I don't think most players are. They're probably still looking straight forward. You don't have that balloon thing within your direct vision a lot of the time, so it's hard to know exactly where to land on, and I don't think they err on the side of caution on it either. They're like, nope, you missed.
No.
But what they make up for with that is just how easy it is to reload and go again straight away.
Sure, yeah, it's built like in the Super Meat Boy model.
Yeah.
And I did the first boss today. Where are you two guys actually in terms of your progression?
I think I just beat that first boss, maybe a little further than that.
Yeah, same.
Okay. I don't know what the other two are like. A friend of the show, Nina, says the bosses are great, but I do like the way that the boss is set up. I like the fact that they break up like the fourth area is just 3 levels and they're a little bit different in terms of the flow. And then the boss itself, like the way that's set up, where it's not just you in arena and you're trying to shoot him. You have like his crystals that you have to shoot, and you're still basically doing a level, but like the targets are a bit different. I like the way that's set up, and it's a bit of a different flow, and I just think it's a really well designed game from like an environmental and level design approach. It's just, again, it's a shame that like every other aspect of it is not great, but here we are.